There comes a point in life when you must understand this power is not in what you chase, beg, or explain. Power is in what you choose not to do. Most people believe strength is loud, that if you want respect, you have to push, demand, or argue until you're heard. But the truth, the most powerful presence in any room is the one that doesn't need to say much. Let's break it down. Eve, our chase. When you chase people, opportunities, or validation, you're telling the world that what you want is above you and that you are below it. Chasing signals desperation. But when you stand still, when you know your value, people will move toward you. Remember, what is truly meant for you will never have to be chased. It will align. NEVR begging strips away dignity. The moment you beg, you hand over yourself, respect in exchange for crumbs. Don't beg for attention, for love, for friendship, for respect. If someone can't see your worth, don't lower yourself to convince them. Walk away, because leaving silently with your dignity intact will always echo louder than words. NEVR explain. Over-explaining is a trap. It's rooted in insecurity, the need to justify yourself so others will accept you. Stop defending your choices, your dreams, your standards. People who truly understand you won't need explanations, and people who won't believe them anyway. Explanations drain your energy. Silence preserves it. And here's where the real power lies. Your silence is not weakness. It's strategy. Silence forces others to think. It makes them uncomfortable. It creates space where your absence speaks more than your presence ever could. Silence shows control, discipline, and strength. It is the language of people who know their worth. Think about this. When someone insults you, they expect a reaction. When someone doubts you, they want you to prove yourself. When someone rejects you, they want to see you scramble. But when you respond with silence, you shatter their expectations. You show them that their opinion has no power over you. Silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It is the unshakable statement. I do not chase. I do not beg. I do not explain. I know who I am. So the next time you feel the urge to prove yourself, stop. The next time you're tempted to chase someone who's walking away, let them go. The next time you think about begging for what should already be yours, hold your ground. Because real power doesn't shout. It doesn't chase. It doesn't explain. It doesn't beg. Real power sits in silence and lets the world adjust itself around it. When you chase something or someone, you are already telling yourself and the world that it has more value than you. You place it above you, and in doing so, you put yourself below. Chasing is an action rooted in lack, in the belief that you are not enough as you are, that you must run after things in order to be worthy of them. But the truth is this: the moment you begin chasing, you diminish your own worth. You strip yourself of the energy and dignity that naturally belongs to you, and you hand it over to something outside of yourself. Think of how people behave when they chase attention. They bend themselves into shapes that are unnatural. They laugh louder than they feel. They say yes when they want to say no. They force themselves into rooms and conversations where they were never invited. And why? Because deep inside, they are terrified of not being seen. But that is exactly what happens. The more you chase attention, the more invisible you become. People start to overlook you because your energy screams neediness instead of confidence. Consider relationships. When you chase a person, when you pursue them with desperate energy, you give away your power. Instead of showing your value by living with strength and self-respect, you try to convince them you are worthy, but anything you have to convince someone of will not last. The harder you chase, the further they will run. You cannot force genuine love, respect, or connection. If someone is meant to stay in your life, they will stay without being chased. If they leave, Your chasing will not make them return in any meaningful way. All you will achieve is losing yourself in the process. Chasing is not limited to people. It extends to opportunities, success, and recognition. Too many people spend their lives running after what they think will make them valuable. They chase titles, money, positions, or approval, but in that chase, they lose their authenticity. They forget who they are because they are consumed by what they think they need to become. The irony is that the most successful people are often not the ones chasing opportunities, but the ones who build themselves so well that opportunities chase them. Instead of running after recognition, they focus on mastering their craft, on developing discipline, on becoming undeniable. When you stop chasing, you begin attracting. Attraction is the natural consequence of knowing your worth. It does not mean being passive or lazy. It means putting in the work, setting the standard, and standing firmly in it. When you know who you are, you no longer need to chase anyone or anything. You radiate a presence that draws the right things toward you without you ever having to run after them. What belongs to you, what is aligned with you, will come naturally when you are standing in your truth. Think of nature. Does the sun chase after the planets? No. Its power, its gravity, keeps everything in orbit. The ocean does not chase the rivers. They flow into it. Trees do not chase sunlight. They grow toward it, steady and rooted. The strongest forces in life do not run after. They remain still, secure in their essence, and everything else organizes itself around them. This is how you must see yourself. When you chase, you betray your own belief in destiny, in alignment, in timing. You tell yourself that you must force what is not meant for you, but forcing leads only to frustration. Patience, on the other hand, allows what is right to reveal itself. The right people, the right opportunities, the right moments will never require you to run yourself into exhaustion trying to catch them. They will align because they are meant to align. It takes discipline to not chase. It takes courage to let go of what you think you want. It takes strength to trust that if something is slipping away, it is not yours to hold. Many people fail at this because they believe stillness is weakness. They mistake silence for being passive. But it is not passive to hold your ground. It is not passive to know your value so deeply that you refuse to cheapen it by running after what does not deserve it. This is not arrogance. It is self-respect. People respect what does not need them. The moment you show that you cannot live without someone or something, you lower your value in their eyes. But the moment you show that your life is full, whole, and meaningful with or without them, you rise. You become magnetic. You become someone others want to be around because strength is attractive and desperation. Do not misunderstand. Effort is important. You must work hard. You must give your best. But effort is not the same as chasing. Effort is disciplined action toward your goals. Chasing is fear-driven desperation to capture what is slipping away. One builds you, the other drains you. One is grounded in purpose. The other is rooted in insecurity. What is meant for you will align when you stop running after it. What is not meant for you will never belong to you, no matter how fast you run. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you step into real power. The real shift happens the day you decide you will no longer chase anyone, anything, or any outcome. You will prepare. You will position yourself. You will live with purpose, but you will not lower yourself by begging for what should already recognize your value. Begging is one of the fastest ways to lose the respect of others and the dignity within yourself. The very act of begging communicates that you believe you are not enough, that you must lower yourself, shrink yourself, and plead in order to receive what should be natural. The moment you beg, you shift the balance of power. You place the other person above you and strip away your own authority. Whether you realize it or not, every time you beg, you silently tell the world that you do not value yourself. In human relationships, begging often shows up in subtle ways. It is not always about kneeling or pleading with words. It is in the constant text to someone who ignores you. It is in saying yes when you desperately want to say no just to keep someone close. It is in tolerating disrespect because you fear losing someone's attention. This is begging in disguise. You are begging for approval, begging for validation, begging for scraps of affection instead of demanding the respect and love you deserve. And once you begin down that road, people stop seeing you as someone to respect and start seeing you as someone to use. People respect strength. They respect boundaries. They respect those who can walk away without flinching. But when you beg, you abandon your strength. You teach people how to treat you. If you accept being treated poorly and still return, you have communicated that you will tolerate it. If you give without receiving and still keep giving, you have taught them that your energy is cheap. Begging does not create love or loyalty. It creates imbalance and dependence. The one who begs always loses power, and the one who is begged always gains control. Think of how it feels to beg for attention from someone. Every unanswered message, every ignored call, every cold response eats away at your self-respect. You know you are lowering yourself, but you justify it by saying you are fighting for the relationship, that you care too much to stop. But that is not care. It is fear. Fear of being alone, fear of rejection, fear that you are not enough on your own. True care does not require begging because genuine connection flows both ways. The moment you must beg someone to notice your worth, they have already told you how little they value it. Begging does not only show up in personal relationships, it appears in professional life too. When you beg for a job, a promotion, or recognition, you weaken your own position. Instead of presenting yourself as someone who brings value, you present yourself as someone desperate for approval. Employers, colleagues, and leaders do not admire desperation. They exploit it. They know that someone who begs will work harder for less, will accept mistreatment, and will tolerate unfairness just to feel needed. But someone who carries themselves with quiet confidence, someone who shows value without pleading for validation, will always be seen as a person of strength. Begging is not the same as asking. Asking is rooted in self-respect. It is a direct expression of what you want, with the willingness to walk away if the answer is no. Begging, however, is asking without boundaries. It is the refusal to walk away when your dignity is at stake. Asking shows clarity, begging shows desperation. One builds respect, the other destroys it. When you beg, you convince yourself that the other person has something you lack, and that without them, you are incomplete. This is a dangerous illusion. Nobody completes you. Nobody defines your worth. The moment you hand someone else that power, you have given away the most important thing you own, your self-respect. Respect is not handed back once it is surrendered. It must be guarded, protected, and never given away lightly. There is strength in walking away when you are not valued. Walking away does not mean you do not care. It does not mean you are cold or heartless. It means you respect yourself enough to refuse the role of a beggar. It means you know that love, respect, and opportunity should never come at the cost of your dignity. And when you choose not to beg, something powerful happens. People notice. Your absence speaks louder than your begging ever could. They realize that you will not tolerate being treated as less than you deserve. Sometimes that silence commands more respect than all the words in the world. Begging also affects your inner world. It corrodes your confidence. Each time you beg, you confirm to yourself that you are powerless, that others hold the key to your worth. Over time, this belief seeps into every area of life. You stop dreaming big because you no longer believe you deserve it. You settle for less because you've trained yourself to accept crumbs. Begging is not only an outward act, it is an inward poison. The more you do it, the more you begin to see yourself through the eyes of those you are begging. You start believing you are small. But the truth is, you were never small. You were never without worth. What you lacked was not value. It was the courage to stand in it. Begging masks that truth. It tricks you into thinking you need someone else to tell you that you matter. But the day you decide to stop begging is the day you remember that you already matter, that you were enough all along. Explaining yourself too much is a habit born from insecurity, and it is one of the fastest ways to drain your power. Every time you over-explain, you give away pieces of yourself trying to convince others of your worth, your intentions, or your decisions. At its core, over-explaining is a need for approval. It comes from the fear that people will misunderstand you, judge you, or reject you unless you lay out every reason behind your actions. But the truth is, people who respect you do not need explanations, and people who do not respect you will never be satisfied with them. The more you explain, the less power you hold, because you show that their opinion matters more than your conviction. Think of the last time you caught yourself over-explaining. Maybe you said no to someone and then followed it up with a long justification about why you could not help, why you were too busy, why you had other priorities. That justification was not for you. It was for them, to make sure they didn't think badly of you. But here's the reality: a simple no is enough. When you add explanation after explanation, you are not strengthening your position, you are weakening it. You are showing doubt, hesitation, and fear of disapproval. And once people sense that fear, they know they can push against your boundaries. Explaining too much also places you in a defensive position. It shifts the balance of power. When you are always clarifying yourself, you are telling others that their understanding is more important than your truth. It becomes a cycle. They question, you explain. They question again, you explain more. You become stuck in a loop of justification that erodes your confidence. But when you refuse to over-explain, when you state your decision firmly and leave it there, you send a different message. You send the message that you trust yourself enough not to need approval. Over-explaining also damages perception. Strong people do not defend themselves endlessly. They do not waste energy trying to make everyone understand their every choice. They stand by what they do, and the world takes notice. The quieter you are about your reasons, the more powerful you appear. Silence and brevity signal confidence. Over-explaining signals insecurity. If you constantly try to prove yourself with words, people will assume you have something to hide. If you stand calmly in your decisions, people assume you know exactly what you're doing. Another trap of explaining too much is that it rarely changes minds. Those who are determined to misunderstand you will keep doing so no matter how carefully you explain. Those who judge you harshly will find fault no matter how many reasons you give. When you fall into the cycle of explanation, you are wasting energy on people who have already decided what they think of you. Explanations will not change them, but silence may. Silence forces them to sit with their own assumptions, and sometimes the discomfort is enough to shift their perspective. But even if it doesn't, you keep your energy intact. It is also important to understand that explaining yourself too much teaches people how to treat you. If every time you set a boundary, you immediately follow it with justification, you are showing that your boundaries are negotiable. If every time you make a decision, you rush to explain why, you are signaling that your choices are not rooted in strength, but in fear of judgment. People learn from this. They learn that you can be pressed for more, that you can be guilted into giving in. that your no does not really mean no. But when you stop over explaining, when you stand firmly and let your words be final, people also learn. They learn that your boundaries are not open for negotiation. They learn that your decisions are not up for debate. Explaining too much is not only an external habit, it becomes internal. Every time you justify yourself to others, you are also training your own mind to doubt. You begin to feel that your choices are not valid unless someone else approves of them. Over time, this chips away at your confidence until you start explaining, even to yourself. You begin to run circles in your own head, doubting, questioning, overthinking. You justify why you want what you want, why you feel what you feel, as though your own truth needs permission. This is the hidden cost of over-explaining. It erodes self-trust. Breaking free from the need to over-explain requires courage. It requires the willingness to be misunderstood, and that is what most people fear, that if they do not explain themselves, others will think poorly of them. But here's the reality: you cannot control what others think. People will misunderstand you whether you explain or not. People will judge you whether you justify yourself or not. The difference is that when you stop explaining, you protect your energy, you conserve your strength, you preserve your dignity. Consider how powerful it feels when someone says something with certainty and then remains silent. The silence is not emptiness. It is a statement. It says, I have nothing more to prove. It says, my decision is final. It says, I trust myself enough not to need your approval. That silence is a form of power far greater than any long explanation could ever provide. Because when you stop explaining, you force others to confront your confidence. You force them to accept your words at face value. The truth is, explanations are often not about clarity. They are about fear. Fear of rejection, fear of disapproval, fear of conflict. But you cannot live your life running from those fears. The more you explain, the more you feed them. The less you explain, the stronger you become. You begin to see that your choices are valid simply because they are yours. You begin to realize that you do not owe anyone an account of your every move. You begin to carry yourself differently because you no longer feel the need to beg for understanding,